This is episode 117.
The Master Chief edition of the Home Games Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 117, the Master Chief edition of the Home Games Podcast.
I love cracking up at your own joke 3 seconds into the intro.
I legitimately tell jokes because I think they're funny. Not for other people to enjoy, but because I enjoy them.
That basically sums up this whole podcast. It's for us.
It's for us.
You know?
Yeah, that's pretty true. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, I'm Joseph. Today is September 25th, 2022. Updates are I finished Sponge, which is my Pong clone for the finished for the most part. Still have some finishing touches, but it's like that last 10% that lasts forever if you let it. So I'll cut it at some point. But the other checklist I have, you have a remastered version of Squarer.
I do have a remastered version of Square
that you showed me before we started recording, which is pretty cool. While I was working on Sponge, not Pong, Sponge, I started thinking about what it would take just for me to say version 1.0, like we talked about before, about what is a version 1.0, what things do we think we need. So I have a small checklist of stuff I think that would be required in my head. So I kind of wanted to go over that at some point. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Sponge updates, Square updates, and then 1.0 checklist.
Man. I know we talked about Sponge earlier today because you were showing me. It's very cool. It's really, really cool. I'm super stoked about it. I do have one more request to change. Can you change the sounds to be you beating up a wet sponge?
You don't like my 8-bit type sine wave clips?
I think it's cool. I like the retro vibe. But after seeing Sponge, I think it'd be funnier is if when the ball hits Sponge, it makes a little like sound. Like imagine you slapped a sponge, like a wet sponge against like a solid surface, like that noise. I think it'd be great.
I think it'd be hard to get that impact. Like how I'm gonna be smacking sponge mommies against the wall, and trying to get a good, sponge mommies or scrub mommies. What are they called? No, it's sponge mommies.
Isn't it a scrub daddy?
Yeah, but it's kind of like Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man. They have a sponge mommy. It's pink.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were sexualizing your sponge.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing, right? By making sponge mommies.
I watched the original like Shark Tank for Scrub Daddy, and the dude was like, basically the eyes were there so you could grip in the eyeball holes, which is terrifying, and also because they can help wash spoons and shit. And then also like the mouth is there because it helps with like bigger spoons, like serving size spoons. You just like throat goat them.
It's engineered for sure for the gawk.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. That is my favorite one, the gawk. Yeah, it is engineered for the gawk for sure. But anyway.
Yeah, but I think it'd be hard to get that sound effect, but it would be fun. But yeah, the original thing was very like straight up rip off of Pong, which is black background, white squares, and then the 8-bit sound kind of made sense. But now I have this layer of assets over it. So the sponges, like the 2 paddles, are actually sponges that I drew on my iPad and did the whole PDF import thing, which is kind of cool that Home Games lets you do that. Very, very impressive, asset system. But yeah, so it's a green sponge, a yellow sponge on either side, or one is on each side. I don't know how to word that. What the hell does either side of the screen mean? It's like there's a thing on either side of them. To me, that says on one, pick one side.
Okay, well, that's not what that means.
I understand, but it's one of those like figures of speech that makes no sense to me. It's like, what the fuck's a ladder and former? You know what I mean? Like, what are we saying? Anyway, so it's the 2 sponges, and then the thing in the middle was originally another pink sponge. So the original idea was that it's sponges kind of bouncing a bubble around, but then it was, how the hell do I make a bubble visible on a color background? It's like a gray background, kind of like a sink was the vibe I was going for. But you can't really make a transparent outline soap bubble easy to track when it's moving super fast. So it became a pink sponge, and then it became the dirty bubble from SpongeBob, which is just like a brown bubble. So that's the progression. So the sound should probably change.
Yeah, I do like the vibe on that now. It's super cool.
Yeah.
When people see it, I think they'll be like, this is kind of sick, honestly.
Yeah, the fact that we have assets moving that fast, because before, like we mentioned, it moves fast and it's kind of cool, but it's just these very primitive colored blocks on a canvas, whereas now it's actual high resolution images and bouncing off of each other and stuff. So it's the most it's like the most breadth or whatever of use of the whole system that we've had so far. I think like we use everything.
And it's fast and it's snappy. It just feels cool to like play. I was legitimately just like enjoying until I got to Crash. I was really enjoying like how smooth the controls are, how smoothly the bubble moves. Like I like being able to like impart momentum into the bubble. It feels like so. It's like it feels nice to be like I hit it.
I like that feeling translates because it's all faked. We don't do the momentum, but when that random number hits at the right speed, you feel like you hit it right. And the way I had it before, where it's kind of just one player mode where you click and drag and it moves both paddles, you're kind of just doing the solo version of it. And that actually is kind of fun. I zoned out a little bit while playing it. And that's like a little bit of that moment where I talked about where you stop thinking about the system, you start thinking about the game. So it's cool. I mean, at this point, it's cool to look at that kind of stuff and be like, wow, this is everything I ever wanted it to be. But then to be like, okay, well, what are we doing? Like, what do we do? Where does this go?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's where it is. And we will make updates as we continue to age as individuals and mature, We will. A weird way of saying we're going to keep making updates as we go along. Yeah. It's intertwined with me personally at this point, though. It's like as I get older, home games gets older. I was 4 years younger than I am now when I started working on home games. I was a lad. A wee lad.
You doing okay, bud? You good?
I don't know.
Fair.
Tell me about Square updates. I saw the thing before. You changed the color palette.
Yeah, so kind of like what I was talking about, in line with kind of like things I was talking about. One of my main there's a couple of things that I wanted to do with the rework on Square. One, looking at Square, it's hard to follow what's going on in Square. So I wanted to make it easier to digest, easier to understand. And at work, we've been talking a lot about like accessibility stuff, and so I wanted to kind of like take some of the things I've learned from there and try to like bring them into here, like better visual clarity. Yeah, that's the word. Like visual clarity on what's happening. And so a bunch of stuff will happen. I'm sure when I, put the commit out there, and if anyone wants to look at it, they'll be like, wow, this is Square. It's still at heart, but it should just feel better, should be nicer. So basically like what I did, and I think I might have talked about this before, but the NPC squares shrunk vertically, one on the top, one on the bottom. What that does is that it gives you a little bit of the base, the background, which is just a flat black background. There we go. That you like shines, that like you see through. And so what it does is it gives you like visual distinction in between the different NPC squares, which makes it a lot easier to tell where they are and like just, where they are in space. Other things that change is that their movement is smoother. So I talked to Joseph about this before, and a lot of it was about like smoothness, right? Human eye like tracks smoothly tends to track things smoothly instead of like things hopping around. And so it's easier to track a square that moves like bit by bit across the screen instead of a square that like jumps across. And so the NPC squares move steadily across the screen now. And a lot of that was just moving away from the movement cue that I had with like that got consumed during the ticks to now just, it happens on a set interval and they fire off asynchronously and they get their answers and all that stuff happens. So all that movement, the schmovement on the NPC squares is smoother now, so it's easier to understand where they're going. And the last piece is colors. So before they were like a highlighter yellow and like a highlighter green. Those two colors are very similar to each other, and even if you don't have color vision deficiencies, it's actually quite hard to like track those, like the difference between those two colors. And those colors being different the idea of it was set like like row 1 would be all green, row 2 would be all yellow, row 3 would be all green again. And so you could figure out what row you're in just by looking at it. But since the two colors are so similar, it's actually quite hard to do that. And so now with the change, they're a flat red and a flat blue. Those colors are quite distinct from one another. So even if you have color deficiencies, I think you should be able to still tell there's a difference between them, unless you're deficient and can't see red and blue, in which case, I'm sorry, they're just green. They're just gray to you, maybe. But I did the best I could. I think maybe like blue and purple or red and purple, one of those two color combinations is considered better. But I don't know. I feel like the red and blue is okay for now. Yeah, and it's like those like some of the major like. You will experience those immediately with the NPCs. Other changes are the players, like the player squares will be a set range of colors instead of being, whatever random color home games will pick for you. And that's just to give you like more visibility on your colors and also like more spread on what the colors are. So it's easier to tell which player is which. And the last piece is the destination square, which used to just be a random color, not super helpful, is now the vibrant green, so a little bit easier to tell, like, go there. Yeah, and then there's also a modal when you start the game now that's like, hey, are all the players here? And you say, yeah, and then the game renders from that point. So just generally some nice quality of life upgrades to Square, I think. Talking to Joseph about it today, and, like, I think there's going to be more updates.
As we age and mature,
not as we age and mature, but more of after talking to Joseph, he pointed out some stuff to me, so I'm gonna make updates to that too. So
it does make me sad that we're overwriting the original version of Square. That's one of the oversights, I guess, in the design of this local game versus distributed game. Yeah. Because we don't have the versioning on local games, so in a way, it feels like V1 of Square is dying. So what I think would be cool is I've been thinking about this new series, or I guess kind of like a refactoring of our existing series stuff on the YouTube channel, just called I Made a Game. Dead ass simple. Doesn't need to be during the game or whatever. You can kind of do it however you want. But it's essentially just a developer walkthrough of a game, how it works, high level, what it is, and just kind of the major pieces. Doesn't need to be super in depth. But so I want to do one for Sponge. I Made a Game, Sponge. You can do, where I think it'd be cool if you did, I Made a Game Squarer, and you show, this is V1, this is how it moves, this is how, like, the blockiness. You could talk about your knowledge of the color, contrast stuff between different things being easier to see and all that kind of stuff, and your thought process there. Very specific to Squarer, just to be like a little time capsule of what it is right now, because as it changes, it'll inevitably not be this way anymore. So
that is true. I would like to point out, since Square has been my baby, I'm totally fine with killing the original version for the new version.
Yeah, but I'm so interested in the preservation of your baby. Like, I don't even, you know what I mean? Like, fuck you. I care about your baby, But yeah, I just think it'd be cool to do that. And then in the future, I think if we had, people contributing community-made games, let's say that we have some sort of a significant audience, I think it'd be a cool platform for people to publish their videos. Like, they basically say, hey, I'm the author of this, I made this, and send us the video and we could put it up on there and kind of use it as a platform for other developers and stuff. I think that'd be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
So
like, use the YouTube tags feature.
What? I don't even know how I didn't know that was a thing.
Really?
Like video responses, or like like the old YouTube thing?
No, like you can like tag a YouTube video with like home games. I Made a Game, and then you can like click on the tag, and it'll give you like all these games. Like, basically like build like a playlist of everybody who also tagged their video with that.
I mean, people like put it on our channel.
You mean people actually putting it on the home games channel? Like, I thought it would be more like they just add our tag, and then it's like an easy way to keep track of it.
I think it would be cool to have that too, but more of a curated list of this is stuff that we want to showcase and highlight in a cool way. Like, if you're a good presenter, better presenter than us, and you can whatever, then we can highlight it on our channel. And if you're just some dude and you mumble through shit the way that we do now, it's like, okay, we'll go ahead and put you on our playlist, bud, but like, you're not going to be on our channel. you know?
Yeah. Like featured games.
Yeah, it's just another way for us to feature community people. You know, if it ever kind of gets to that point, I think that'd be cool. But yeah, and then just my whole thing about I think videos are cool because software dies. You know, shit gets whatever old and weird and crusty and not runnable. I want videos. I want archives.
It's an interesting concept that software dies so much as it just kind of disappears.
Well, like we talked about last time, where you know some company decides that they're going to stop supporting Flash in the browser, and then everybody else stops supporting Flash, and then all this work that's done in Flash is effectively dead without some way to run it. You know, like I don't know. If you had a video of your old games, it'd be, I don't know. It's like a museum of in some way of like dead shit. You know, you need to preserve everything. Everything. I have backpacks full of papers from 6th grade, 7th grade, because in my head. See, this is why you and I work together, because I'm like fucking unhinged in the preservation stuff, and you don't give a shit about a lot of things.
That's because I don't remember most things.
Yeah. So you live like a renegade.
I live like a goldfish, brother.
I live like a goldfish,
A
brother.
renegade makes me sound really cool. I just walk my dog.
Yeah, I have other stuff for version 1.0, but yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about for Square specifics or Sponge specifics or anything else before we get to that?
What if I added sound effects to Square?
Look, what kind of sound effects?
I'm gonna need to crash my car into your car.
I'm sure there's better ways to get that sound effect, like
no.
2 balls of aluminum foil smushing into each other.
It's full on like 45 miles per hour.
Super realistic with like human screaming.
Yeah. How else would people really know they messed up when their square hit the other square? You know what I mean? That's a good question. In Frogger, is Frogger the name of the frog?
Frogger is, maybe it's you the player, like you're frogging, like you're moving the frog about, which is known colloquially as frogging.
You know, that's a possibility. I do think frogging is the act of capturing frogs to eat them, but
maybe that's what's on the other side of the road. You're just escaping one form of death to meet another. It's tragic, really. It's like a Hamlet or whatever.
I'll have to do some research into this. Maybe if we talk about it enough, YouTube will recommend to me Frogger lore videos.
Frogger fan fiction.
Yeah, Frogger. I don't want Frogger fan fiction. But maybe you know what? Instead of figuring out what Frogger did, I should just come up with my own lore of what Square is.
Well, I was thinking it'd actually be really interesting because we do have this high fidelity sound possibility with our assets. Like we just support modern file types. And so it's kind of a cool contrast to have this very old Atari looking game, but hyper realistic sound effects.
Actually, it rains near my house and the frogs still come out where I live. I could get frog sounds.
You should get like ambient frog sounds to just play throughout the entire thing and then use that's one layer and then do sound effects on top.
That would be kind of dope though, honestly.
But think about like there's that Atari game where it's 2 cowboys and they just like shoot at each other. It's called Standoff or some shit.
Oh yeah.
And it'd be funny if you still have these same block guys, but then when a bullet makes contact, it's this like it's like painful, realistic. Like Insurgency when you kill people, they're just like it's like fucking real pain. Put that over 8-bit or 2-bit graphics.
Hyper realistic gun noise.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, that's pretty dope. I kind of like that idea.
It feels artsy. I can't articulate why, but it feels artsy.
It's the fusion of old and new that really makes it,
Yeah, see? We'll just put you like a fake curator or whatever talking about it, and then other people will be like...
That's all I can say, but I would just say that on a loop for like 5 hours. It'd be the worst curator ever.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's an effort. We went to the Museum of Art last weekend, and we spent like 2 hours in there. I really tried to look fancy, looking at all the different stuff and trying to soak it all in. There was one sculpture of a dude with his dick out. I was like, so trying to really soak it up.
Was he just like, check it out?
No, he was kind of like curled up. Like, he wasn't super proud of it.
How about the Thinking Man?
No, it was modeled after that or whatever.
Okay.
It references that, but it's not that. It's all black marble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not an art guy is my point. I tried really hard. I didn't get it.
Some art you're just not going to get.
I'm not a smart guy, dude.
That's not... Art is something you feel. Not something you consider.
Do you consider how you feel?
No. Never.
Wow.
Never. If anything, I actively avoid thinking about that.
Fair.
That's why the blueberries thing happened.
The blueberries thing?
Yeah, where I ate a pound of blueberries so I could get over my dislike for blueberries.
Yeah. That doesn't seem like a healthy way to deal with anything.
I mean, it depends on how you view yourself.
If you're afraid of snakes, you eat a pound of snakes.
I think if you ate a pound of snakes, you wouldn't be afraid of snakes anymore. Maybe I should eat a pound of crickets.
Eat a pound of moths, dude. There's like 4,000 moths.
No, dude. Actually, that would be terrible. Moths are so dusty.
Yeah. It's a box of dust. All right. So before we are finished with this episode, I need to talk about some thoughts I had today, which is basically just, like I said, kind of what I said earlier, where I look at everything and I say, well, what else do we need to do? And so it's this very weak thing that I do where I was like, oh, it's not version 1.0, so it's not real. And so I have a list. It's only 4 things that I think we need before we say, okay, this is version 1.0. Mm-hmm. If it happens, you know, and if not, like I've said from the beginning, we will continue making games probably just slowly, and then the podcast might transition more into like maybe a slower pace, more in-depth thing, or more of a video-based thing or something, but just about those games, because the work on the system is going to be relatively slow or infrequent.
There'll be Let's Plays.
We're just going to do we can do Twitch streams of games that we make, or what I thought would really be fun is if we rented out like some office space downtown for, you know, like a low rate or whatever, and then we basically just do a hackathon and then stream it. So we'll get like game ideas and then make them, and then I'm just pounding you know, monster coffee drinks and smoking bowls, you know, and then we just make games.
In college, we drank like 17 Red Bulls in 24 hours.
It was not 17, maybe between all of us, sure. But like I had maybe 5.
I think I had like 6.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, I mean, we could do it again. We might die.
I don't think my heart can handle it anymore, brother.
We're not 30 yet, dude. Or maybe it'd be like a really interesting, you know, just pushing.
Fucking shoulders locked up on me, brother.
But that's just more embarrassing because we're not 30 yet, you know?
Yeah,
like you're too young to be that old physically.
Yeah,
that's
true.
So I'm just saying, I believe in us. I think it'd be cool to do like a
I know I'm down to do it. I don't know about the lock ourselves in the office for 24 hours thing.
Just the energy of a hackathon is like unmatched in anything I've ever done in my life. True. I love that shit so much.
It is high energy.
And then when at the end of the day, and you're like, I'm tired, and no one made me do that. There's like completely unnecessary. I had 6 Red Bulls for no reason, dude.
I never thought about the no one made me do that, but yeah, it's pretty true.
But the deadline is so helpful for getting shit done. Yeah. It's all made up. Everything is made up, but like it's like it helps so much to say this will be done by this day, or else I am a failure. You know.
True.
So we could talk about dates and stuff for 1.0 at some point. I don't think we need to do that today. But one of them is input interface. I've mentioned this so many times, but just to me, it would be nice if we had some sort of way to universally map input from a keyboard or a steering wheel or a Guitar Hero controller or an Xbox gamepad or whatever into some sort of universal thing of, you know, this is all key X, key Y. When you hit key X, this happens. So it does, like, for example, in the sponge logic, I have, okay, handle key down. Which key did they press? Is it an S or is it a down arrow, which both would mean down? Mm-hmm. Whereas instead of having some sort of mapping somewhere that S and down both map to X, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So something like that, which would give us out of the box gamepad support for everything. You don't need to add gamepad support. It's like if you handle this input type and the system is configured to map gamepad to that input type, then you accept that gamepad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of critical for everything to be real. You have any questions on that or anything, or like, does that make sense?
I guess the only thing I would ask about is giving players the ability to like reconfigure their stuff. Okay.
Yeah, that would be part of it, because if you have you can just change the mapping, right? Where the player can say, well, instead of this on the gamepad mapping to X, I want this on my keyboard or this on my whatever. Mm-hmm. You can have a kind of universal way to configure.
Yeah. I want you to know right now, in my head, when you said that, I just immediately was like a JSON file.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but sometimes that happens. I'm like, oh, yeah. Just like immediately start like mentally like, oh, how would I build that feature? JSON file is my answer so far.
It's true. A lot of things are solved by a JSON file. A lot of our config stuff and a lot of our initial whatever stuff, it just requires JSON files, which I think is we talked about it before, but I think for normal people, JSON's pretty accessible.
Yeah.
Much more than XML or something like that.
XML's gnarly.
Yeah, it's dog shit. So signed binaries is the next thing. Another thing, like I keep mentioning, these are all things I've mentioned for the longest time. It's just they're like so solidified that they need to be in version 1.0, and like, this is it for them.
Yeah.
So signed binaries, people don't trust anything they download, let alone when it says, hey, this is a virus, probably. Like we can't ever get off the ground with that.
Yeah.
So I've looked into it a couple times. I'm pretty sure we need to just like form some sort of organization which signs binaries that we produce, and then there's some sort of authority that verifies those signatures, and then we get kind of a green light on the download step of on the installation step of Windows and Mac and whatever, where it's like, okay, this is signed, these people are who they say they are, distributed from this website. So that's mostly just like a process thing. There's nothing really involved with home games there, at least I don't think. So the next thing is network play, which I've talked about before. This is a big one, but it's the ability to share your game session with someone over the public internet via a room code. Pretty simple feature. You would expect it in like any Jackbox thing. This is something that my coworkers and I tell them about. Hey, like I work on this thing on the side, and they're like, oh, cool. When can we play it? I'm like, oh, never. It's not for that, but it could be, and I think it should be. Mm-hmm. So I talked about it before, but yeah, high level room code. Give somebody a link, they can join it with the code, play with you. No voice chat, no communication, none of that shit. That's way too crazy. Just sharing the session as if they were in the same house.
Nice.
If your game has voice chat, I mean, sure, it would support it. It just might be shit over that network because we're mirroring it over to somewhere else over the public internet.
Yeah.
So it also introduces some weirdness because right now the whole network stuff is TCP and everything is single threaded. So we do have this guarantee of like things update before they do whatever, like before the next change. This change will be reflected in some way. Mm-hmm. We remove that with the public play stuff because we only know that the relay server got the message, but we don't know about all the servers it's relaying to. So it's like another hop in the whole thing, which would just add some fuckery. Is a technical term, but and the last one is we're gonna add English support and Polish support. That's what that says, Polish. We're gonna have 2 languages out of the box. It's Polish.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I just want to polish everything. And like I said earlier, it's that last 10% that takes forever, and it's very loose and very open and very vague to polish things. But it's like the Pong thing where I made the early version of it. I showed it to you, and you were like, okay. I made some changes to it, showed it to you again. You were like, oh, shit. Made some more changes and showed it to you today, and you like peed yourself. Yeah. That progression, it's like, okay, that's the polish, and at some point when Synovia can look at it and think, damn, like I just want some sort of like, damn, something. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, we're good. When it can impress a normal person, we're good. Like that's 1.0.
Wow, calling your wife normal.
I mean, in her technology taste or experience or whatever. But yeah, so that's really it. Those things, and then we say, okay, this is 1.0. post it to Reddit, post it to Hacker News, whatever the hell, Product Hunt, whatever people like. I hadn't heard of Product Hunt until this year.
Okay, that's the first time I've heard of it. Okay.
It's like Reddit for people who make things.
Oh, cool.
And so you have to get verified as a person, and there's like a waiting period for that. Like you can't just make an account and post that day. And then you give yourself a deadline. You say like, this day I'm going to post my link. And then on that day you have access to do the thing, and then people can vote on it. You could be like number 1, number 2, just like a Reddit style voting. Mm-hmm. So that will be our earnest, real good attempt at saying like, hey guys, we made this. We really want you to try it out.
Yeah.
Not just try it out, wink wink. Fuck you, don't try this out. It's not ready yet, wink wink,
Yeah.
And then from there we can go and hopefully get some traction and whatever. And if not, like I said, just basically make games and fuck around until we give up in like 10 years or something. So that's how I see the future. I can't really see too much ahead,
Just 10 years in the future.
10 years is a lot, I don't know. We could all be dead in a year. Who knows,
It's true. Yeah, I think that's true. I think adding that polish is going to be the tedious / ongoing part of it all. I did, when you said you're going to add Polish support, I was like, interesting. I work with a lot of people from Poland, so I was like, it wasn't like super crazy to me, but I was like, does Joseph know Polish?
I don't know Polish.
I don't know Polish either.
I'm not opposed to the idea of learning the language, but that was just a shitty joke I was making. I think it would be interesting to do, like just on a technical level, how would we do, what is the term for it? Is it regionalization? Localization, yeah. But of just having some sort of a centralized place where these are like the master strings, but then these are the replacements in all these different languages. I think technically that'd be fun,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's like so much cool shit we could build with this. This is why I hope it's like, okay, we can make the video stuff, but then when we have to make interesting distributed systems, like solving kind of interesting specific problems, like we can make some shit about that,
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, that's basically all I wanted to talk about for this episode. Did you have anything else?
Did you see Dunkey's making his own video game publishing company?
I did, yeah. Big Mode, that's what it's called. Yeah. Curious to see how that goes.
We should apply.
We don't have any ideas, and we're also not veterans of anything.
Home games.
Like, we haven't made any games.
Square and Sponge.
Are you serious?
Not yet.
No, because the whole thing is, I would assume that he's trying to publish traditionally published games. Like, we are making a publishing system. You know what I mean? It's like you want to give us money, and home games will tell people about Dunkey as if people don't know who Dunkey is.
True.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I was asking is that he helps with localization. That's like one of the things that he does. So I was like, oh, that would be pretty helpful because I do localization at work, and it is tedious, very, very tedious is how you do it.
Yeah, I'm sure the day-to-day of actually doing the translations and using the systems to do it is boring as shit, but building the system to do it is probably pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's cool that, someone who has the mentality of like, man, fuck video games, huh? It's like what if I fund good video games, That's cool. It's like the same kind of mindset of us where it's like, okay, well, doesn't it suck that you have like no idea how video games work and you're like a victim of EA? It's like, wouldn't it be cool if you could make your own thing?
It's true.
It's like the same thing with different approaches. I don't have Dunkey money, so
very true.
I've only got Joseph brains,
Oh.
I don't know.
Fair.
What do you think about Big Mode?
I'm interested in it. I feel like if I was gonna go with any of the people on YouTube to be like, help me make a game, Dunkey would probably be up there because it's played so many games professionally. Like, I'm almost certain that he'll have a pretty keen eye for like this game is good or this game won't be good.
Yeah.
For certain games, I notice he doesn't play like RTSs and stuff like that. There's like certain genres that he just doesn't play. And it's like those games probably will fall out of it. But like if you're making a platformer, just play a lot of platformers.
Yeah, I guess I just wonder, at a certain point, I would assume a publisher does more than just fund people and then say that this is good or not. Like you kind of have to be, I would assume, more involved at some point because you're investing a lot of your money into it. So I just wonder, I don't know if he has like experience with that, but
I don't know if he does or not. I know that he's doing like localization, and he has like a way for people who are like graphic designers and sound designers to like put their resume up there. So it'd be like a job portal also kind of for them. So people making games are like, I need a video designer, and just pick up somebody from there.
Like Fiverr.
Kind of like Fiverr, but more like you're hiring an employee. So like kind of like LinkedIn in that way. But without all the weird, shitty marketing people all the time. Like LinkedIn would be pretty sick if it was just like people who were like like did jobs professionally instead of like headhunters posting about how sick their job is all the time.
Have you seen the shit of like a day in the life of whatever employee, like a day in the life working at LinkedIn or a day in the life working at whatever big company? It's like, I don't know, those are the people that post on LinkedIn, the people that seemingly do no work all day. They're just like, why do you have this much time to type?
Yeah.
You have 3 paragraphs in this LinkedIn post? What the fuck?
It's a long post, brother. I would never. I'd put a tweet out there. I don't even log in. I'm logged into my LinkedIn account, my phone, nowhere else, and I don't know how to log in on my account anywhere because I forgot my password.
Same as your Facebook. You're such a boomer, dude. You have no idea how to use technology.
No, I actually write down my passwords now because I'm like, that's too important to forget.
Sticky note says penis 01 on your monitor.
It's on the back of my monitor, so you really have to look,
Very secure.
Very, very secure.
All right, is that it for us?
Yeah, that's all from me.
Okay. That is going to do it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, our music is done by our friend Tynan. He is Nitan on Bandcamp. That is Nitan, Nytan. You can find us on Twitter at HomeGamesIO. We have a website, homegames.io. You can send us a question or a message or anything, really, using the text contact form at the bottom of the page. It's text-based. Like, you can't send us anything else. You can send us links, I guess, but we won't click them. I see Yazeed's face, like, questioning why I said text, and I'm questioning it, too, so I'm just explaining myself.
I was about to be like, did we get, like, an account that just receives text messages now? Because I don't want to put my phone number out there.
Not like text messages based in text.
Text-based messages.
Yeah, I hate that I have to use 3 words to say it, but that is correct. Yeah, text-based messages. Using the contact form at the bottom of the page. Homegames.io. Once again, that's our website. Me and Yazeed. I'm Joseph. Thanks for listening.
Send us that text-based message.
Bye.
Bye-bye.